Hey gang, David Gupple, Thinker Farmer here. Someone asked a question a number of videos back after I had done a solo cattle drive, and they essentially asked, how do you drive cattle a long distance when you're by yourself? You don't have anybody at the back to drive the animals up. It's easy for things to get congested or for animals to not follow. What are some of the principles or some of the things you use to get it done? So in this video, I'm by no means an expert. I'm just going to try to explain some of the things that I use and take advantage of. And I'm essentially going to do a couple of mock simulations. And to accomplish this, I'm going to take, this is something from my childhood past. This would be 20 years ago. I played with Legos growing up. And so forgive me, gang. I'm by no means like horses. I'm kind of ashamed that I'm using horses, but necessity is the mother of invention. So I'm going to use these horses as cows for everything I'm discussing, and then these little guys here would essentially be the equivalent of a herdsman or a man on a four-wheeler. So anyway, first thing about cattle drive logistics, you need to see things from the lead cow's point of view. The lead cow, your lead animal, it's going to be in front of the whole herd. Whatever it does, almost all the other cows are going to end up doing the same thing. You need to know what that lead cow is going to do in whatever situation you create. So know this, flow creates more flow. If you get one animal to move, you probably are going to get the whole herd to move. Once one animal is going the wrong way, you may get the whole herd going the wrong direction. Only give your animals one option. This kind of follows as an obvious second thing. There have been situations, gang, where there was two options for the animals, and I could tell you, I learned after the fact that you only give an animal one option. If they have another gate they can go through or another area they can remotely get stuck in, they're going to get stuck there. You need to give them one option and a clear direction. So basic guidelines or things in regards to cattle logistics. So the first thing in guidelines is cattle flow. I'm going to emphasize this again and again. So I'm going to quickly go over these and then I'll try to give some illustrations. Number one thing about cattle flow for me, well, really these are not in an exact order, but keep them together. If you let your animals get stretched out over a long distance, especially if you are by yourself doing a drive, it's hard to monitor, it's hard to watch things. It's easier for the animals to get confused. You need to keep them together. And I might as well mention this kind of goes without saying, but if you're really lax about your rotational grazing, your animals are not going to be together when you need to get them up for a cattle drive. And everything is going to be harder. So the more you can move your animals, that means moving them every day. Even Craig Judy moves them twice a day. The easier it's going to be to keep them together and to create flow when you need to make a cattle drive. Temporary fence for cattle drives. If there are any sharp turns or pockets, U-turns in your cattle drives, those are going to create a train wreck for you, and I'll explain more on that later. And temporary fence is also for keeping, keep your fences visible. So if there's an area that's in the shade or maybe the vegetation is denser, you need to have extra posts in that area, or even a person or even ribbon on the fencing to make sure it's visible. What I've concluded is a psychological barrier. That's pretty much all electric fence, and it's especially in relation to polywire and temporary setup for lanes and or check fences. We're not talking semi-permanent fences that your animals have known for 5 or 6 rotations or more. We're talking temporary fence. It's only going to be as effective as its visibility. And this matters as much as the voltage on the fence. That means you could have a fence that has 10,000 volts, but if it's, it's in a shady spot and there's vegetation grown all around it, or maybe the fence is low, or maybe just the way the light is laying on it, your posts are spaced far apart, and they can't see it. They're going along through tall grass. If they can't see it, it doesn't matter how hot it is. Fence visibility is as important, if not more important, than your voltage. Both matter, and this is especially critical. This kind of ties into the next point, actually, which is the time of day. Cattle drives are best going to be done in the morning or in the evening. especially in the summertime right now with the heat. Cows, no animal really wants to move on a 90 or 100 degree day. Evenings and mornings are best, but I've learned also by experience, fence moves at night when the fences are not visible are a really bad idea. So you really want to plan, if you're going to start a cattle drive, depending on how long you think it's going to take, give yourself 20, 30, 40 minutes so you can finish up before dark. Because if anything goes wrong and those animals move into that paddock 5 to 10 minutes before dark, they might not even have time to find their check fence. Well, then they're going to go to grazing, and they'll graze a little at night. They'll end up blowing right through that check fence, and they'll end up in the next paddock, and they might blow through another fence too. I've had an experience where it's happened. I know it definitely happens. So time of making sure your fences are visible, moving them, with plenty of time to get things done before dark is always the smartest thing. So illustrations. So let's give an illustration on sharp turns and pockets. So, and how you use electric fence to, temporary fences to solve that and keep flow. So we'll take our 3 cows here, and really don't need, since I'm doing solo cattle drives and showing things solo right now, I don't need the extra people. So let's say we've got a paddock, and maybe this is a 20 or a 40 acre paddock, we'll say, and I've got a gate over here, and I'm going to run them into this lane. Flow is very important. I open the gate and I just call them on through. Lead cow comes on through. Second cow comes on through. Calves come on along, and they see mother here, and they don't realize that they've got to go up to come down. So they just come right in here, and they get themselves right in that pocket. Mom moves on down the line, and calves just stay there. They bawl, they cry for mama. Mom just moves on to the new paddock, forgets about them. Once the calves get upset enough and realize nothing's happening, they're all stressed out, they run back to where mother was, and they wait there, because that's where mom last was. So that's where they need to be for mom to find them. So what do you do when this happens? You at this point, you're all your cows are in the new paddock, and you're going to either have to leave the gate open right here, and so the animals are going to be grazing back in this 40 or 50 acre or whatever size the paddock is. You're not going to be able to back fence, or you're going to have to try to go and push the calves up by yourself. Tough luck with that. Or you're going to have to get mother and a couple of cows back to try to get them all up. This whole situation could have completely been prevented. 2 things. There's at least 2 things you could have done differently to solve the problem. One is, you can already see I've dotted the line here. You put a temporary fence in right here. That's what anything on this whiteboard that you see here, or this sheet of paper, if it's dotted or dashed, that's supposed to be a temporary fence. I'm not great at drawing things, so bear with me on that, gang. I'm much better at writing than I am at drawing pictures. You have a temporary fence there. When the animals come on through, Junior in the back there is going to see mother, and he's going to go on through with her. And they're all going to stay together. Just having a temporary fence in there to keep them out of that pocket and keep them only able to see mom going around through is going to help. And the second thing that you can do is don't open the gate until all of your animals, if you started the drive and you called the cows here, wait till they're all up to the gate before you open it. There's no sense in opening the gate early and rushing through, and then, one animal's still back here getting up and the other animals are plowing through. Wait until all the animals get up to the gate, then let them on through. Those 2 things will save your lunch on that. Now, one other caveat to that is that right here, if you have a hill or you have trees that are tall and the animals can't see through it, really this is all about an animal's sight. If, one animal is here and it's, you know, let's say it's the mom or whatever, the herd buddy, and you know, the other animal's here, and it can see, it's going to try to go straight to the animal. It's not thinking about, animals do not have a long-term memory. They think in the moment about what's going to happen. So, but if you've got a hill here or some sort of obstruction, then you're more likely for the animals to go on through. So anyway, I probably beat that dead horse. So